Good morning. Today we will discuss about the storage technologies supported by the Android operating system. There are five types. The one is called as shared preferences, then internal storage, external storage, SQLite databases, and the network storage. You can observe the definition of the each technology. The one is called the shared preferences. Mainly, it will be used for how to get, how to store a key value pair. For example, for all the primary data types like integer, character, float, string, and so on. So we will store in terms of a key like variable name is equal to what is the value. Then internal storage, the private storage allocation per application. So here the data will be private, it is not public. Then external storage, here the data is either public or private. We can store the data on the memory card called as SD card. Then the SQLite database, here the data can be stored in terms of like relational or tables. So that is, we will call it as the structured data. And finally the network storage. So somewhere else in the website we can store the data, then we can retrieve the data as well as we can update the data through Android app. Okay, so let us see these things one by one. First of all, in this class, let us see about the shared preferences. So just now I told the shared preferences will be used for to store the primitive data types like the boolean, float, integer, long, and string. So in terms of a key and a value. So what the library provides for us to maintain the shared preferences. The first thing, let us define a preference name. For example, what is the file name of the shared preferences? Here I am giving the, for example, my preference file. Then you can open the existing preferences file, or you can create the new file. For that you can use the class called as shared preferences and their method called as get shared preferences. Then how can I read the value which is already available? So for example, if it is the boolean value, then you can use the method called as get boolean, or if it is the integer you can use getInt, if it is the string you can use getString, and so on. So here this false indicates that, for instance, if this key is not available in this file, what is the default value you want to assign for this variable? Then how can I write the data into shared preferences? For that we have to use the editor called as shared preferences editor. By using the editor you can use the method called as put boolean, put integer, put string, put float, put char, and so on. Okay, so the first parameter is called as key, that is what is the variable name, followed by what is the value you want to write. Then don't forget about the commit. Here so this commit is the finally you have to store the data permanently. Okay, so let us see an application for these shared preferences so that you can better understand what is the use. Android application project. Then let us, I am giving the file name as, for example, shared preferences example. I am giving the project name as shared preferences example. Next, 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 finish. Now what the example I am going to do, let us assume an application have two activities. One is main activity, then once you click on certain button it will go to the next activity. So the first activity, the task is it will receive some data from the user store in the shared preferences file. Then in the second activity I am going to retrieve it. That means once you store any, suppose let us assume that an application have 10 activities, that means 10 pages. So this shared preference is a common resource where you can upload the data as well as where you can read the data. Okay, so let us, I'm creating the two activities. One is main activity. In that main activity, so let us assume that it have only two fields. One is text field, one is the text field, then followed by it is having one button. Okay, so once here I will enter some data, then click on the button, I will go to the next screen. Okay, in that next screen I will access the data. I'll so modify the caption for the button, for example next screen. Next screen. Okay, so now let us write the code for the Java file. So what is the code we need to write in the Java file? First, get the reference for text field, that is edit text. We can import the class. Now edit text is equal to find view by id or dot id dot, what is that text field called as edit text 1. Now you can do the casting. So this is the, it's not minus, it's equal to, okay. And also here actually we want to execute a function once you click on the button. So Android on click equal, suppose I want to execute the task called as function. Now let us write the code for function. So what is the code for the function? Public void one function. So that is, so it will take the view object. You can import the view class also. Now what is the task it has to do? Actually once I click on this, I want to move to the next screen. So what is the next screen? So write the next screen. First create the next screen class. New other and add activity. Next. What is the activity name? For example, second activity. Next. Finish. Now observe here the second activity Java file, second activity XML file. Second activity XML file contains one text field. Now second activity Java contains something. Now coming to the first activity, here now you can write the intent to go for next screen is equal to new intent of, what is the first activity? Main activity dot this comma second activity dot class. Should give the semicolon here, that is the problem. Then now you can start the activity. Start activity of, what is the intent? Okay, so this is for the purpose of, if I click on the button, I will go to the next activity called as second activity dot class. But before moving to the second one, now I want to store the data which I was entered into this edit text field. Now how can I show that? So for that I have a class called as shared preferences is equal to sp is equal to get shared preferences of, what is the file name? For example, the file name is called as my preferences, or you can write preferences name, then you can put the default value as 0. Now it will give the error as what is the preferences name, what is the now to update the value you can create the editor shared preferences dot editor is equal to sp dot edit. Now ed dot put string of what is the key. For example, I am writing key 1, then what is the value? For example, the value is equal to some temporary value. Now ed dot commit. Okay. Now what is the temp? The temp is the value of what you entered. String temp is equal to, that is et dot get text dot to string. Okay, that is the temp. Now what is this preference name? So the preference also is equal to private static final string. What is the preference name? So the variable name is preference underscore name is equal to my preferences is equal to my preferences. Okay, so the preference name is equal to my. So this is for how to create this. So what I have done till now is I created the first activity with one text field and one button. I am collecting the data from the text field. Whenever you click on the button, so it will go to the next screen. So here I am collecting the data from, then I am writing into shared preference, then I am moving to the next activity. Now what is the task of the next activity? So the next activity, just get the data. First get the text view, TV is equal to find view by id of dot id dot. Here we need to define some text too. Actually the text 2 we need to write here what is its ID in the activity 2 XML file, and I would colon ID is equal to get the new one text 2. Okay, save it. Now we can come to the second file. Okay, so now tv dot set text of temp. But what is the temp? How can you get the temp? So for that again you need to write the shared preferences shared preferences sp is equal to get shared preferences of what is that, or you can copy from here the same, copy and write in the second activity, and also this first, what is the field name, then from here you can get the template. String temp is equal to sp dot get string of key 1, comma, suppose if it is not available, what is the default value you want to mention. Okay, so this is the application. So in the second activity, the task is it will read the shared preference, one of the value from the shared preference, then update the text in the second. Okay, let us execute it. Let us execute it once. So this is the main first activity. Suppose I am entering the value as Chennai. Now if I click on the next screen, it will go to next screen. So now instead of hello world, now it is displaying the message as Chennai. Okay, so this is an example for shared preferences. Now you may get the doubt about, so earlier we used the intents to pass the data, like we used the method called as put extra get extra method related to intent class. So what the difference between that thing and these shared preferences? Suppose imagine here we have the two activities, there is no difference between that intent and shared. Now suppose assume that there are three activities. In the first activity you stored some data. Now you are moving from first activity to second activity, again second to third activity. So at that time, how can you get the data from the first activity to third activity? So it means if you use the intents approach, then you have to first upload the data along with intent from first activity to second activity, again from second activity to third activity. So it will very overhead. So to minimize that, the best common resource is called as shared preferences file. Any activity can upload, any activity can download. So this is an example for shared preferences. All the best.